Welcome to this week's edition of Engineers Building Businesses, the podcast of the Texas Engineering and Technology Network. Every week we'll be showcasing the achievements of members of TETN so you can hear what they've been up to and get their advice for building a successful tech business here in Texas. We'll also bring you helpful information on how you can quickly grow and succeed in your business. Well, welcome again to this week's episode of Engineers Building Businesses, the podcast of the Texas Engineering and Technology Network. And this week we are conducting one of our regular member spotlights. And in the studio, the guest we have is Greg Lins. Greg, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, David. Good to be here.
Okay, so as always, what we want to do is learn more about you, learn about your business, and get some wisdom from you, from the years of experience you've had running engineering and technology companies that people listening to the podcast can take value from and maybe apply in their own business. So let's start. So Greg, tell us a bit about yourself. Can you share the background, or what were the circumstances that got you into being an entrepreneur?
Well, I was an entrepreneur as a kid. 7 years old, I had a lemonade stand, and then I figured out if I put it on a wagon, I could take it around the neighborhood. And if I added some products from the store, I could increase my revenue. And I eventually told my dad about it, and I asked him for money to buy some candy for my store. And he said, no, I can't just give you money to do that, but I'll invest, I don't know what it was, $5 for half of your company. We'll call it stock. And that's how I got started.
Okay.
But yeah, mostly, some childhood stuff. And then I went to engineering school, obviously. So I'm an industrial engineer from Purdue. And the early part of my career was climbing the ladder. I did that quite a bit and pretty darn well. By the time I was, late 30s, I was leading a consulting practice for Arthur Andersen, implementing information technology and business strategy. Prior to that, though, probably the longest bit of engineering work, and I was partner to the organization, so I guess I could call that entrepreneurial. But a industrial engineering firm that really the big innovation there was we did design work, we did engineering work. And large facilities. When Nintendo came along, wanting to develop a new distribution center, I ended up getting thrown into that, and I had no experience with this company or distribution up to that point. I was purely a manufacturing guy, but we had to get this thing done in some ridiculous amount of time. And so what we ended up doing was changing the model for how we delivered these things. Rather than engineering services and doing more like owner representation types of services, we started doing turnkey work, delivering complete facilities, fully integrated systems, that type of thing. And the clients loved it. It put us in a completely different position than we had been. And our margins had been eroding because there were more and more of these industrial engineering firms kind of sprouting up. So that really changed the company. We ended up getting a run of, I was leading facility expansion for like Motorola, Sony, Sega, but a bunch of different companies in that run. But that kind of led me ultimately to burning out, and then I started on my own. So that's a whole other story post 40.
Right. Well, I was going to say, so as part of your journey, what has been the biggest personal transformation? But I think you just alluded to that. So.
No, that was one of them. I probably, reinvented myself, I don't know, 6-7 times along the way by now. So,
okay.
Reinvention, I guess, would be one of my specialties with businesses and with myself. So,
but I think when you look at the rate of change of society at the moment, I think those who can't reinvent themselves and do it successfully and quickly are just going to get left behind.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, the changes that I've experienced have been forced on me one way or the other, either because I didn't like the position that I was in and wanted out, the whole opportunity just moved away, and I needed to do something else to keep the revenue coming in, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
Pivots along the way.
Yep. Yep. And I think, I mean, so let me ask you this. I mean, that's always a challenge, when do you stick it out and when do you pivot? Do you have any sort of, is it just gut feel, or do you have any wisdom, or is there a methodology that you use to make that decision?
That's always been a tough one. Yeah, I know that other founders struggle with this a great deal. I would have to say that my decision making on that has gotten better over the years, because I've realized over the years that there are solutions to some of the problems that I thought could not really be solved that well. I've always had trouble with sales and marketing, for example. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I never really understood why. It took working with, I've worked with a coach now for 7 years. It's been one of the best things I did in my whole career. Wish I'd done it sooner, but he's very strong in marketing and product marketing, ex Microsofty, and we just get along great. But he knows marketing, and he can solve these things that I was never able to. So there are cases I pivoted when I gave up on that whole marketing sales thing. And had I known more about the topic, I probably would have stuck it out and figured it out, because there is reward there when you get through that. But it's 2/3 of a company: marketing, sales, and delivery. Those are the three components. And a lot of founders don't realize that it's not the engineering and the services and the technology that we're delivering that's the be all end all here. That's like 1/3 of it.
Absolutely. No, that's a very valid point.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially for engineering and technology companies, the founders focus so much on the product and the development, but until you have a way of telling the market what you've got and then selling it and delivering it, you actually don't have a business.
Well, yeah, and even before that, what market are we selling into?
Yeah.
And are we building a market up front? I mean, you look at like what Elon Musk did with the electric car market. He's not doing much in the way of marketing for Tesla, but he built the market for Tesla. He was out in front, championing the whole cause of Tesla, and it's a lifestyle, it's a way of being, right? But for marketing, they don't really do much. It's like, okay, you want a car? Here's the price. Put some money down. When we call you and say, hey, your car's ready, we're going to need the rest of that $80,000, tomorrow, and you can pick up your car, or we'll just sell it to somebody else. What do you want to do? That's a completely different place to be, but that's market development, and that's not marketing at all.
Sure. Yeah. No.
Right.
But it's nice. I mean, that's almost taking a leaf out the Apple playbook. We have these great products. They create a culture around what they're doing, and then you buy into the culture. You either love it or hate it, which, from a marketing perspective, is a great place to be. If you can get 50% of the people who love you and 50% of the people who hate you, you're going to get a lot of market buzz, a lot of market awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you said you got to the point where you'd had enough, you needed time, you started on your own. So what does Boom Ignition do now then? Was that your next step, or were there some?
No, I've been through a number of things since,
Okay.
when I first left corporate, or quit the corporate hellhole, I guess I could call it that.
Yeah.
And got out on my own. First thing I did was real estate. And did pretty well at that for a few years, but I kind of got burned out on it. And it's kind of repetitive, at least the way I was approaching it. And I had all these folks that I'd worked with, in past endeavors, that had stepped out of corporate on their own, and they had their new ventures, and they wanted to pull me in. And so I got really interested in startups in 2005 range to 2014 or so. Spent probably far too much money and probably far too much time learning about, greenfield idea stage startups and getting those rolling. And that was a painful experience, let me tell you. By the end of it, finally, we were getting things coming out of Silicon Valley, like, Lean Startup with Eric Ries and, Steve Blank and the customer development method. But when I was starting out on those things, not only were we going through a recession, I was just trying to figure out what we could sell, but it just didn't have the knowledge base in those days that we do today. A lot of the mystery of how to get a startup going has been really taken out of it. I mean, there's definite practical, science-based approach to getting as quickly as possible to a viable business model. Yeah. And that was the big learning in those days. So by the time I got out of that, I learned a lot about not using my gut so much, and a lot more using analysis and fact finding to try and do things differently, and how much of that has migrated more and more to the main problem of, is there a market? What does the market care about? What are the words we can use? How can I get the messaging and such that I can build any engagement at all? Those are the far bigger problems, way bigger than delivery of any of the capabilities that I've got. I mean, that's old hat at this point. Right?
No, it's interesting you say that. What are the words we use? I mean, we've been advising from digital marketing, sales and marketing. We recently pivoted into the full revenue ops, rev gen type services. But it goes back, we're always dealing with people. People are human beings, and we have to deal with them as human beings. And that means we need to get the emotions, we need to get the stories that engage with them, so that we can then talk about the tech, talk about the product. And I think many engineering and technology owners go straight into vomit data and specs and whatever else. They just do not build that story as to, why the hell do I care about your product or service?
Yeah, exactly. And if we're talking about the product or service in the first conversation, then we've completely screwed the pooch. It's over, because they don't care. They really do. They care about themselves, and for good reasons. So we got to kind of somehow get in. We have to dwell in the problem space, right? There has to be a recognized understanding that this is a problem. I'm going to listen to this guy because he's hitting a problem I care about, and he grabbed the right words. It's because it's a reptile thing, right? If they're opting in to go to a webinar or some scrap that we've put out there to market with, it has to be something that really grabs somebody at an emotional level. And we can't figure that out unless we go through enough time, hypothesizing, testing, validating these messages. And it takes a lot longer than I ever would have expected. In my experience, it takes easily 3 months, usually 6 months, sometimes as long as 9 months, to really get at the core value of a product or service, productize it in a way that can be understood, like buying a can of soup off the shelf, getting it out there and beginning to get some traction in revenue. It just takes a lot of time to build it. But once that's done, it draws very clear lines of how we're competing differently than others, and where we need to go to deliver the value, which is great, because then growth is much easier. We know what to do.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's the old military expression. Time spent in reconnaissance is never wasted.
Yeah.
And I mean, with my clients, the minimum I will do is a 90-day sprint, because less than 90 days, you just can't get the traction, you can't get the information you need just to be able to provide any value at all. So,
well, yeah, you can run campaigns in 90 days, but you can't run a whole reassessment of, is our messaging hitting the right market? Are we in the right? I mean, that's a whole separate conversation, really.
Sure. Yep, absolutely. So obviously you over your career, you came out of the corporate world, you tried several things. You obviously, I mean, your marketing stuff. Clearly, you've spent a lot of time studying that. So was that the last step before Boom Ignition, or are we not quite there in your story?
Well, Boom Ignition, I started that in 2017. So I had kind of right before that point, I had had some large scale contracts with Tata in India. We were working on a market expansion for them in the United States. 50 million a year was kind of what they were after. So I helped them to set up a whole marketing and sales capability. Really, they had to get their act together as far as communications and support to the United States market. They really didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting one. Tata, this particular group of Tata did central services for 50 other different Tata companies. If you're familiar with Tata in India, it's the largest. It's about 70 companies. I think they're all differently
Yeah,
held.
I mean, I've sort of followed them. So did they not? They had the world's cheapest car, but they also bought out the Jaguar product range. I think.
Yeah, they got Jaguar and Range Rover. They've
Yeah.
they also they got an automotive group. They make trucks, and then they've got beverages, tea. They've got steel. They've got telecom. They've got so all these different support services. So my startups, by the way, were mostly related to global outsourcing, BPO, information technology outsourcing, offshore, nearshore development. We had developed one model. The best go we had for one of the startups was Questus 5. It was a model where we had pulled together 12 different centers, if you will, outsourcing centers, including a rural US one that was very good. And we pulled that together in a catalog. We had 170 different skill sets, basically, that you could hire full-time workers in different locations. Typically, the whole idea was hire sooner, grow faster, because our cost of knowledge workers was about a third of the U.S. And I've used that model very successfully with clients many times. I mean, most recently, I had a engineering manufacturing company, HVAC, and the company. I was in there to turn it around, and this is as Boom Ignition now. I guess getting into Boom Ignition, I was doing a turnaround with this company in Houston, and I mean, the margins had just been eroded so badly after years of racing to the bottom and a very weak strategy in my view. But the company had designs, 20,000 plus designs for this component called a curb adapter, and there's only a few companies in the country that make them, and they're big regional. Separated by distance, but these things are needed everywhere, wherever you do an HVAC replacement on a roof. Well, we ended up, the opportunity there was to turn it into a software company without any competition, literally created a new market, a startup inside the business. Literally, we created a new entity for this thing. It got spun off. But took all of the intellectual property, some software, and all of these designs, put it in there, and like Uber, basically, we went out to the market of different manufacturers all over the country that had the tooling and the sheet metal and the welders that you'd need to do this, and brought that out as a software as a service that they could buy, so that they could use their extra capacity, like an Uber with their car. They already had the capacity and the skills. They just wanted another product, basically, and so basically we could enable products. So that was kind of the fun there. I think I got off track though.
No, I was going to. If you hadn't mentioned that, I was going to bring you back to that, because I thought that was a fascinating case study. Just to flesh it out a bit more. I think the company was in sheet metal, and they were local. So when we talked about this before, you said the problem in that area is it's very much locally constrained because of the shipping cost of the material and everything.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Any of these companies shipping beyond, say, 500 miles, the freight's going to cost more than the actual component. And that's
Yeah.
the problem with these long distances, and why a distributed manufacturing system made just complete sense for this industry.
No, absolutely. No, and I mean, I was fascinated because, when we talked about this before, you said, it was a traditional engineering company. They were in decline, but they had this asset that they hadn't even realized, which were these 20,000 designs.
Yeah.
And then,
An engineering company, engineering technology companies do not manage this stuff very well. There is gold. Every single company I have seen between $5 and $50 million of revenue, and I've worked in that space quite a bit back since I was with Anderson. I did.
yep.
There's intellectual property laying around that a lot of founders don't realize is intellectual property and what you can do with it. And so I often, because what I really do is I come in to help businesses look at new opportunities, new markets, new ways to use their intellectual property strategy.
Sure.
Nobody buys strategy, by the way. If I was to go out to the market and say, yeah, I do strategy, I'd never ever get a client.
Sell anything. No.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, I call it turbulence now, because when there's something going on in the market that we really don't understand, and it's definitely affecting things. We're not meeting our targets. We're having unexpected results. We don't know what's going on. Why are our customers buying from us? Why are they not? Why are they buying from the other people? What the hell is going on? Because here's the thing: if we look at turbulence, that condition of uncertainty and things going wrong, the flip side of that is smooth growth.
Yep.
And every company is always in some flux between these two things. They're mutually co-arising. You can't have smooth growth without turbulence. You can't have turbulence without smooth growth. So from an Eastern perspective, an Eastern philosophical perspective, right? These are mutually co-arising opposites that have to run their cycles. And so you're always in the cycle. The question is, what are you learning from these things? And the turbulence side is most hated and most avoided, yet there is gold in the turbulence side. Solving these problems are solving market problems, generally speaking. They're solving different types of problems that we may have set out to solve when we founded our companies, because it may not be the technology problem that we're dealing with as the mainstay of the company. But these are definitely problems that are getting in our way of growing. And if we solve these problems, oftentimes they're market problems and we can take to a broader audience. So it's a huge way to grow a company, in my view. And when I get in situations where it's just smooth growth, I'm bored. I don't really care for it.
You're absolutely right. I mean, again, you talked about finding the gold. One of the things I advise my clients, especially towards the end of that entrepreneur cycle when they're beginning to think about the exit, is let's do an exercise to actually uncover these golden nuggets. Because they're laying around. They're just laying around in the business, but the owner's so focused on, this is my business, this is my product. And again, talk about the business exit. I always try and encourage people, if there's a way they can find a SaaS product within their company, that's a huge kick to the exit value of the business.
Yeah. Well. To be clear, I mean, the multiples, valuation multiples on this manufacturing business that I was working with, 1.1 revenue times revenue, give or take, is a manufacturing HVAC business.
Yep.
Okay. Average software application software company, more like 8 to 16 times revenue. We formed the thing. 15 months later, the company valuation was triple.
Yep.
Based on an offer we got from an investor. He wanted to invest in the software company and buy out the manufacturing company. So he's had a couple of offers now about buying his manufacturing company, which now he likes it. So here's the thing: the whole thing was designed. We were going to get the company sold after 3 years, but he ended up buying me out because now he likes it. It was like this thing was dying, and how am I going to get out of this? And now it's like, geez, I'm running a software company that's growing fast.
Absolutely,
he doesn't want to sell.
No, I mean, to repeat those multipliers, I mean, that is huge. What a 1x or 1.1x revenue for a manufacturing company, 8 to 16x for a software company. And, if you look at the figures, the top of the line is, you can see up to 30x EBITDA if you've got a SaaS product. And if you've got a SaaS product and you can show the numbers, 30x of EBITDA is huge. It is
Well,
absolutely
and
huge.
the other thing is it's more consistent revenue. So like the PEs are gonna, value it much, much higher. The more from the financial valuation perspective. When you got solid, steady income, that's worth more right there. So
Exactly.
yeah, a SaaS model is a great model, and I've actually got 3 workshops on how to build a startup inside a business. I delivered that to the Houston Ion. That's kind of the center of innovation here in Houston here last year. The whole series, each of them is an hour and a half. So I mean, and I definitely walk anyone who wants to go through that with me, who's looking at the opportunity. I just share that for free. You probably want to hire me once you get done with that, though.
Well, no, that's a great segue. So if people want to connect with you, LinkedIn is where we want them to go. Agreed?
Yeah, I hang out on LinkedIn. I've never really. I've had some websites from time to time. I've got a side project up. I've got a website, and I'm getting close to where I might have some ideas for a Boom Ignition website. But I don't need a lot of clients, really. If I've got 5 clients at any given time, I'm changing up things. By the way, because I wrapped up that manufacturing company here in December and got bought out, and so now I'm looking at, well, what do I do next? So I'm kind of configuring it into a coaching consulting type of model, and really the pain point is turbulence. How can we take care of that turbulence, solve it? What can we build from it? But yeah, I'm all about, I look for 3-5x multiples as a matter of routine. That's what I do best. Reinvent it and really take the thing forward to a different level.
Yeah, no, that's a huge skill set, because now, I read a book that says we're in the exponential economy. So things are just moving so fast. You have to be able to reinvent. You have to be able to go where the market's taking you. But when you're doing that, as you say, go through the turbulence. What's the old adage? Feel the pain and do it anyway. Go through the turbulence, and on the other side of the turbulence is your next golden opportunity. And you're the guy that can help people get through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of fun too. The other part of what I really look at is, do we have a good team with the right people on it? Because that to me matters more than anything else. It's kind of like, the camaraderie and the team make it all worthwhile.
And I mean, it's a pity we're on time, but that's a whole other conversation. We're one of the ongoing discussions we're having in the Texas Engineering and Technology Network is the human factor of business. Mm-hmm. And I think people have got disconnected so much that we're losing that. Yeah. Well, Greg, that's been a very, very fast session. There was so much. We're probably going to have to do this again and get more from you. But that was really interesting. And you've obviously got some huge experience, which is of enormous value to the founders of engineering and technology companies. So I strongly encourage everybody, reach out to Greg, connect with him on LinkedIn, and he's a huge source of information that can really help you get your company through that turbulent stage to find the next golden nugget.
All right. Well, thanks, David. Appreciate it. It's been good getting to know you outside of this, of course. And then today, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Oh, Greg, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to speaking to you again on another episode.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Texas Engineering and Technology Network Members Spotlight Podcast. If you're the owner or a senior decision maker in an engineering or tech company based in Texas, please look for our group on LinkedIn where you can apply to join. If you're listening through Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you are, please leave us a rating and a review. Let me know what you loved, what you'd like to see improved, and any ideas for future episodes. And if you're ready to take your engineering and tech business to the next level, please subscribe to the Engineers Building Business podcast. And also feel free to book a call with me to discuss how you can move faster towards your business goals. because it's no fun being stuck in a business that's not giving you the desired results. Just visit steampoweredconsulting.com/talkwithdavid or connect with me on LinkedIn. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks again for your support.